Alright, who's ready for this banner? I have one dupe. And at the end of the day, it's not even a terrible dupe. No, let's not. That's on the first banner. So first up, we have a new relic in Warrior of Light's Ragnarok. And it is just a holy chain. Pretty basic soul break. But basic doesn't mean bad. In this case, I would say that basic is good. What it does is it just does 11 single attacks to help you add to the chain, and grants holy chain plus 20%, and grants HP stock 2000 to all allies. That's just good. I suppose at the end of the day, you'd probably prefer to be getting quick cast too from the holy chain, because that really helps out in ramping up the chain. But getting an HP stock 2000 from someone that isn't going to be healing at all is actually kind of useful. So the Holy Chain user, Warrior of Light, is a very powerful Holy Knight by himself, and all he actually needs is this for a seat at the big kids table for a Holy team. It's really good. And I'm not sure, and I want to go and verify that Warrior of Light and his Ragnarok is a plus holy damage weapon. I don't believe it is. I'm glad that they make it so easy to find Ragnarok. Of course, the first thing that comes up is Laguna's Ragnarok Buster. Now, there's only 9. That's not too bad. Ragnarok, Final Fantasy 1. Soulbreak Shield of Light. Yeah, it's RS. That sucks. Oh well. You would think the Holy Chain would at least have all around holy damage, right? Guess not. Next up, we have Vanille's USB, the Brightwing Staff. This is not new. And not even all that good. However, it does extend the capability of Vanille, who is one of the better healers in the game due to her burst and legend materia. Convalescence grants Astra, Protect Shell, and HP stock 2000. It's okay. Protecting Shell can be useful, and it does sometimes save you turns. But I really don't think that you're going to be running Vanille all that often with just this. She's pretty poor with just this. It's more of an extend the capability of Vanille with her base, which would be Transcendent Dream, her Burst Soul Break. Astra, by the way, is Status Blink. It allows you to ignore the effects of one status while it is active. So, with, yeah, it's pretty weak USB. However, it would be fine on Vanille if you had her burst as well. And luckily, that does appear on the festival. It's just weird that you have one of what should be the premier spots on the banner taken up by a not so good relic. It's more of a complementary Super Soul Break for Vanille. So that kind of soils the top of the banner. And next up, we have something that's just even worse. Tyro's OSB is really bad. Stock 3000 would have been better. I don't know if it would have totally redeemed it, but at least would have been a little more usable. So Tyro's OSB is Arbiter's Apocrypha. Breaks damage cap. Yay! However, of note that it only has a 9.0 multiplier, so it's not going to be breaking the damage cap by much, if at all. Attack, defense, magic, and resistance plus 15% to all allies for 25 seconds. So we get a stacking buff out of it. However, it is a very small stacking buff. Yeah, not that good. And by not that good, I mean this is basically relegated to jumpstart duty, win more status. If you're using this, you're using for funsies. It's kind of like Celebration Grimoire. Except, yeah. So that stinks. Already, Brightwing Staff, good and worth having if you feel like investing in Vanille, which, please don't feel any shame in doing that. Yes, yeah, we do. Tyro gets a USB 2 that grants haste to all allies, as well as giving a penta buff instead of the quad buff. So the haste coupled with that, much better. And plus there's some damage on it too. But yeah, it's not much. Anyway, third up on the list, we just have an OSB. It's a good OSB, but an OSB nonetheless. So, similar to the Brightwing Staff, it's really only good if you've got what makes that character good. Luckily, what makes Agrius good is also on this banner. Her premier Burst Soul Break is here, and hopefully, if you get this, you're also able to get this. Both of them together make her, well, this makes her really awesome, and this is a great finisher for your really awesome Holy Knight. So, well, that was a really uninspiring top of the banner. This is awesome. Love the Holy Chain in Warrior of Light's hands. However, complimentary OSB, and this is just bad. Yes, Raccoon, it's just free. The Tyro USB 2. So next up, we have the BSBs. We have the Usurper, Corilla, who took the place of Ayame's BSB, much to our chagrin, because Ayame's BSB is really good, while this one is only good. We're gonna go take a look at it. Oh, that's the 11. Gorilla's Burst, Intervention. Grants intervention to all allies for 25 seconds. And that's it. Group attacks and grants intervention. The status intervention, I don't remember it exactly, so I'm going to make sure. It is a pretty decent status of attack 30% and defense plus 50%. So that's good. And that grants that to all allies. So it's a good, like, she's a buffing paladin at this point, kind of similar to Minfilia in that regard, though more paladin-y, where Minfilia is more support. But let's take a look at the commands and see if they're good enough. We have 4 single attacks and grants high regen to the user. Well, that's Holy non-elemental is kind of uninspiring. 2 group, then grant Sentinel to the user. That's okay. So she gets a lot of defense, huh? But with no, Imperil or Attach Holy to combine with this Sentinel to make her a Guardbringer. Yeah, I don't really feel too hot about this. I think back when this was originally supposed to be released, which was back at the end of 2016, this was probably a pretty good burst. However, this one's fallen off, I would say. There's a lot of better options. Where the other burst that appeared on that banner was Ayame's, and that has not fallen off. That's still an extremely good Ice Samurai Spellblade burst. Very good. I would compare this one to something like Rex. Rex's Burst Soul Break is going to be coming out within the next couple weeks. And what Rex does on his entry is very similar to this. By granting intervention, you increase the attack and defense of all of the people in your party, while Rex, with Whitefall, increases the attack and defense of your entire party. Of course, this isn't as stacking as intervention, but I don't care. You're also granting haste to your entire party at the same time. That's what I mean by fallen off. There's just... It wasn't supposed to see its first release now. Because there's stuff like this that's going to be in the game now. That's just better, and his commands are better too. 4 single attacks, higher multiplier of exploiting weakness, and that's lightning and ice. Ice being a rare element. And 4 single attacks restores HP to the lowest HP ally for 25% of their maximum HP. Good utility. It's just better than Kurilla's in every single way. And that will be on the Final Fantasy XII banner in a couple weeks. And it's on a good banner. But that's not really how we evaluate festival banners. You evaluate them because it's more a sheer, overwhelming quantity of good relics. They don't have to be exceptional, but good relics that you don't mind throwing a little bit of mithril on and perhaps getting one and improving your party. Where realm banners like the one Rex appears on is different in that regard. So it's kind of unfair-ish to compare them that way. I'm just saying that as far as power creep is concerned, this has fallen off the wagon a little bit. Next up, we have something that's definitely totally fallen off the wagon in Aerith's Burst. And while I personally wouldn't mind it, because I have no Final Fantasy VII medicas, I can understand people for not really wanting it these days because of it's just it's power creeped, that's all. But at least it's a competent healer burst at the end of the day. Kiraga Medica, don't really care about the holy attacks attached to it. Or is it even holy? Yeah, it is. So, Kiraga Medica. And the commands are basically a Kiraja and a Medica. So not instacast Kiraja, which you see on bursts these days. You're trading the instacast for. It grants mind 30%, not to her, but to the person, the recipient of the heal. So only sometimes will that be beneficial. So it's just an older version of the burst that we see these days. Less effects, less useful effects on it, but still, it can heal. Next up, we have Agri's Excalibur, and it's finally something I can get really excited about ever since Warrior of Light's CSB. Agrius' Divine Ruination is one of the 2 best Holy Imperils in the game. And moving on to its commands. We have 2 single attacks grants Sentinel and 2 single attacks and also grants resistance plus 40%. You would use the second command when you're dealing with magical damage. Otherwise, if it's primarily physical, you can pretty much ignore this attack and instead give yourself the Sentinel and then use Guardbringer. Because, yeah, it just works well with each other. And once your BS becomes available again, you use that because using Guardbringer is a lot of damage. However, you're generally going to be increasing your damage output much higher by stacking Imperils, because the rest of the team should be also exploiting that weakness. And that is basically the same burst as Beatrix, and they are the Imperil Holy Pair. Next up, we have Memphilia and her Katana Holy Bursts. Holy Support Burst confused weirdo thing going on. We got that ready. So Memphilia's Echo at the surface is just an Attach Holy Night Burst. But once we get down to the commands, she does 2 single attacks with a power breakdown and 2 single attacks with a magic breakdown attached to it. So it is actually a support burst with the Attach Holy status, and it does 2 attacks instead of the normal 1 that most support bursts do. So it's higher damage than most support bursts. So she just does more damage than your typical support by trading away debuff potential, because she only has access to these power breakdown, magic breakdown, and then her 2 ability slots. And since these are regular cast time, you're only actually able to rotate 1 ability with these if you were to use both. So I think the typical loadout for Memphilia and her abilities would be using these 2 burst commands plus full break in a rotation, and a high duration thing in her other slot, which most likely be Protector or Shulka. Not really all that great anymore, considering that supports have started to get more focused in their roles of whether to be debuffers or buffers. Memphilia is not even alone there, because her USB is a huge buffing USB, and it's really nice. Her BSB is just not where her power is located. So I wouldn't consider this a huge win on the banner, but it's not like it's bad. It's not bad. And that's the same way I feel about Aerith and Corilla as well. But next up, we do have something that is quite good, and that's Vanille's Mistletoe. Which does her Transcendent Dream, Curaga Medica, and grants Mind 30% to the user. And its defining characteristic is that it is I believe, the only instant cast BSB. A healer BSB, that is. Vanille has an interesting first command where it's actually an attack, but that's okay, because white mages have access to single target cures anyway. As long as the healer burst has access to the Medica, which is something you can't duplicate with abilities, and is very, very powerful and part of what defines healer bursts, then that's okay. And you have this option available to you. She can do a fair amount of damage with this attack, as well as reducing the resistance of whoever you're attacking. So it can deal damage and increase your damage output if on a mage team. However, most of the time, and almost all the time, you're going to be using Vanille for her instant entry and her Medica. And they are very good. They are very good. It seems basic, but they save your life a lot. Next up, we have the Zax BSB, which I talked about on the Imperil breakdown, and the fact that I really love it as an Imperil Wind, even though it is the wind element, which will eventually be shown the door by Golem. However, Zac and Cloud, particularly, are a little resistant to that. So Meteor Shots is Wind and Earth entry, which is interesting. But causes Imperil Wind 20%, and his commands are the real nice part about his burst. Because they are 0.6 cast time, which is less than half of the regular cast time of other abilities and commands. And that is a great thing to have on an Imperil Burst, because the faster you attack, the faster you generate, and the faster you generate, the faster you can Imperil again. And that applies to both his 4 single and 2 group. So, that is a good Imperil Burst. And I would, if I remember correctly, Karilla's Super Soul Break is probably overall more useful than her Burst. Swiftblade, Holy Non-Elemental, 6 single, restores HP to all allies for 40% of their maximum HP, and removes negative effects to all allies. So it's a group Asuna, group Medica, that does single target holy damage. Now we're talking. This actually has a really strong place, even in today's meta. I think that's a pretty good super. So happy to see that one of the 2 supers is actually good. And, you know, the second super is Sentinel's Grimoire, which is, you know, not a super, so it must stink, right? Yeah. Sentinel's Grimoire is really good. It is one of the only 2 plus 100% defense plus 200% defense plus 200% resistance buffs in the entire game. And it is awesome, and it is probably a chase relic. I personally don't think it is. I don't feel like it is. I don't think with the roaming warrior portion of the game there that this is worth chasing after. And I say chase because that's important. I wouldn't mind picking it up on a good banner. However, I wouldn't want to go so far out of my way to put myself in a compromising situation by pulling on a bad banner to go after it. And I feel like that is the case for Thyrus and Ishtola's burst version of the Soul Break that occurs on the Final Fantasy XIV event that's going to be coming in July. I believe that is a bad situation to be pulling for it, because the banner is overall pretty awful. It just has spots of good things on it in Minfilia's USB and Ishtola's full complement of gear other than her other plain Soul Break. See, the difference between this banner and that one too is, though even this banner has a higher general quality grade, I'd say, than that one, the big difference here is these are the 2 Super Soul Breaks, and as I mentioned earlier on in the analysis, that these 2 have a higher percentage chance of dropping than anything else here. These would be a 2 out of 14 each, where on the Final Fantasy XIV banner, it is only the Thyrus is being the last Soul Break on the banner is only a 1 out of 14. So you have a much better opportunity or chance to get Sentinel's Grimoire here than you do on the Final Fantasy XIV banner. So if you're in the market for chasing after Sentinel's Grimoire, this is the place to get it. Does the Cuirass have any bonus effects? What are we calling it? No, it does not. So, though I don't feel that Wall is worth chasing because of the way it works, we can at least evaluate this banner and say, is the banner good, and would I consider pulling on it for the chance of getting Sentinel Grimoire, and also not be angry about getting other things as well. So that's what we're going to take a look at here, because that's what I feel like this banner is. This is the Wall banner. This is excellent. This is really good, just all by itself. He doesn't need anything else to be good. This is complementary to her burst, but that occurs on this banner. This is complementary to her burst, also appears on this banner. This is just bad. This is okay. This is good. This is good. This is really good. This is good. This is really good. This is really good. So overall, the banner isn't bad. So you can't consider this like, you know, totally compromising yourself to chase after Sentinel Grimoire. So I wouldn't fault people for trying to go after it, but if you see that you've picked up some of the best stuff that occurs on this banner and are still going after Sentinel Grimoire, check yourself. If you're not in the market for Sentinel Grimoire, how do I feel about this banner? Not good. There's too many replacement tier relics here. Just stuff that wouldn't see all that much use compared to other things. This burst is just confused. Either, I mean, I want to support debuffing and buffing. The little bit extra amount of damage that you get from here doesn't make up for the fact that she does her job as a support poorly. Well, Nightmare Dungeons with the right RWs are just cheesable, and you can complete them and master them without much problem at all. So yeah, a lot of stuff is harder to complete, but not really. And this is me speaking as someone that has wall, and I tried forcing wall into my compositions for a very long time, and I noticed the game got easier when I moved wall out into the RW position. Especially for APOC stuff. I don't use wall anymore. I RW it. Because it's just easier to improve my other relics rather than go after this old relic that allows me to RW something, because I think having native relics is more powerful, while Sentinel's Grimoire is really not any more powerful as native as it is in RW. I'm not going to say it's a bad thing to have. I use it, and it does make life easier. But it's not the end-all be-all that it hasn't been for a while. That's fair. With Cloud USB, oh, I guess. Cloud USB is, I mean, it's really powerful. But I'm hesitating to say that RWing Cloud USB is one more. Now, I will not deny that at all. That it gets boring RWing wall. But just because it's boring doesn't mean it isn't the most effective thing that you can be doing. Overall, I think this is a pretty spotty banner. I don't think it's as bad as Phase 2 overall. But this would be second worst banner in the festival, for sure. Who could this banner be good for? Well, it's got some nice holy potential. This makes a strong holy team character. This makes a strong holy team character. This is a great complementary, really good complementary relic for a great holy team character. One of the better healers in the game, and a complementary USB to go with her. Wind in Peril. So, I'm interested in this banner if I'm looking for wall. If I'm looking for Wind in Peril, I plan on pulling on the Cloud USB banner, because this does not occur there, and it would go together with that banner pretty well. If I'm looking for a strong healer, if I need Holy Knights, and that's it. So combine those needs together, and you find people that have interest in this banner. Like, say 2 of those needs. Say I need Holy Knights, and I need wall. That would make this banner interesting. Need healer too? Then add on to the party. Just overall, because of some of the misses that occur here, and the fact that a lot of the top end of the banner is dominated by what I would consider complementary relics, and one really just bad one, it's hard.